unleashes him to play even more aggressive.
And for me, Humanoid is really the X factor for Splyce. You know, we don't know what the ceiling of this guy is. We hear that he's very confident, maybe even borderline onto the cockiness, so he's not afraid to step forward. We've seen him grab picks like the Aatrox before, have incredible games, and so he's the guy who I want Splyce to really put their resource into. We know that Kobbe is a very solid laner. Give it to Humanoid, let him be that next thing that takes them to the top of the contenders.
I'm ready to see already upsets Ezreal locked in, though. So we've got two very strong individual picks for the respective players. What is the final pick going to be here in the first rotation from Schalke?
Something that did manage to slip through the ban phase, I don't think it's going to be the pickup here, is IgNar's Thresh. His most played champion so far. I think it's been only banned away from him once, and I think he then turned towards the Morgana. Works very well with his roam style, and also a lot of that safety that him and Upset like to have in the lane phase.
And now Ryze locked in, though, and this excites me because I think I want to see where exactly this is going to go. Odoamne has been playing a lot more of these carries in the top lane. Maybe we do see a Ryze go up there, but Abbedagge in the mid lane, I was excited to see how he would fill the shoes of Nukeduck, and being a great Lissandra player and a great Ryze player is an easy way to fill those shoes.
And it also does very similar things as the Lissandra. You know, it's able to clear out the wave very safely, has so much roam potential with the ultimate, and then can be such a force in those late game team fights, especially how we play around Baron. So I hope that the Ryze goes into Abbedagge's hands because I think it fits right in his play style.
And I actually love the sheer amount of comfort picks coming in. Now, the Ryze I want to see in Abbedagge, I haven't seen as much of, but the Braum coming in for Norskeren. Last year, we're like, easy win. Norskeren on Braum, gonna be good. Xerxe on the Sejuani as well, a tank jungler, very much fits his style. And I want to see if Schalke follows suit and just continue to go for these more comfortable picks. The Olaf, though, I personally always have mixed feelings because this champion looks so good when it looks good, and when it doesn't do anything in the early game, it looks so useless.
Well, when you see all of the CC coming out of simply two picks of Splyce, the Sejuani and the Braum, it's a really easy grab to look towards the Olaf because it doesn't mean anything more. That zone control that you have with those two picks, Memento doesn't care, and he also has so much pressure then on his lanes, particularly the bottom one. Again, in the LPL, anytime you see Olaf locked in, we're camping bot, boys.
And that, honestly, if you want to camp for upsets Ezreal, I'd call that a good decision. The Bane and the Kai'Sa now banned, so they do not want to get outscaled here. They do not want to deal with some of these excellent duelists.
There's that Thresh.
And the Thresh. I love how specifically targeted this draft phase feels. So often just feels like generic meta power. And there is definitely some meta power in here, but it also just feels like every player is getting these comfort picks or the other team is denying them away so cleanly. The Jace taken off the board here was hovered earlier in the champion select.
Odo, one of the big guys that pulled out the Kennen, so not afraid to go for more of these range-style champions, so I feel like the Jace is specifically targeted at him.
What is the option going to be now on the side of Schalke? They're taking away the Thresh. Definitely an amazing pick in the hands of IgNar. We saw how well Upset and IgNar played together against Reckless in lane.
I mean, the safe option is to grab your support here, so you can still hold that Ryze as a flex pick and confuse people, or you just double down and grab another flex. Gragas seems to do that just fine.
Gragas, I think we might see going to the support role in the hands of IgNar. Can go in a lot of different places, though. Obviously, one of those champions, this kit is just so universally good in a wide variety of situations. Now, though, taking time here on the opposite side. What are Splyce going to opt to go for? And I'm just curious.
That
Ornn.
would be...
Is that an Ornn top? It would be an Ornn top.
I almost got excited too.
I was like,
Ornn
support! And I was like, well, I don't think Braum is a flex pick yet. G2 was on stage, we might think so.
So Ornn has had some changes. He's been showing up globally, mostly in the support position. His items and his passive are just a bit easier to use. They actually have more bang for their buck. Feels a lot nicer to have an Ornn there.
Oh, and the Varus rounding out the composition. Picking to win the lane. Not picking to scale. Obviously can be an incredible team fighter if you can get that Rage Blade stacked up, but not a champion we see nearly as much of. Feels much more about just getting that push down early.
But the thing is that with this composition that Splyce have assembled, this isn't a comp that's about high mobility and making those chess moves across the map, you know, beating your opponents to a lane and having a pressure advantage. This is a full team fight composition. You got the Ornn, you got the Sejuani ultimate, you have the Braum, you have the Varus. This is them trying to go toe-to-toe with Schalke and saying, okay, you're a great team fighting team. We've now drafted to match you there.
But talk to me about the Schalke draft then. If we are looking at Splyce to have all the components they need to pull off these incredible team fights, what are we looking for on the opposite side for Schalke? Are they also looking for it? I mean, they have the LeBlanc now, they have the Ryze. Are we looking at the Schalke 1-3-1 to combat the Splyce team fight? That feels like a big mix-up.
I don't think you have to go for the 1-3-1. It's going to be an option pending if Schalke's Ryze and LeBlanc really get off and have that springboard and the advantage in the lane assignments. But I look at that composition, I'm like, Ezreal, LeBlanc, Gragas, Olaf. If they walk up to a tower, you're just going to get blown up off of it. The poke damage, the threat of the cask is massive from Schalke. If this composition gets ahead, it is so easy to siege with.
And snowballing has been the name of the game. Even on 9.2, we saw in our first game that once a team gets a lead, very easy to close it. So the Baron nerfs maybe not working quite as well as expected. We will find out, though. One game, not enough of a sample size to be sure. So we get ready for our second game here.
I like the fact that the Ryze got flexed up into the top side. It feels like when you're looking across from the Ornn, he's like, okay, this lane phase, Ornn's just going to sit in there and farm. It's a free farm lane for me, so I can get a pass to get to that late game scaling Ryze. Does mean that you lose a little bit of your utility in terms of flexing towards the side lanes by using your ultimate, but we'll see if Odo gets involved with his teleport.
And Odo on carry is something we did not get to see a lot on Splyce last split. Odo versus Vizicsacsi. Feels like very much. We saw Splyce earlier today talking a little smack about the former top laner for their own team. We'll see if they can back it up today. Froskurinn, the fans are ready. Are you ready? Splyce, Schalke.
Feels like alongside Team Vitality, these are the two teams that are competing for that third place position in the LEC. So sitting at the big kids table of who's going to be an actual contender this split.
In this game, of course, big difference maker, going toe-to-toe with an opponent you expect to face in that playoffs race, even this early, given the strength of the relative strength of the teams. Pretty significant. Owning the head-to-head, putting them down below, and Splyce, I think, a much less changes to the roster overall, it feels like, whereas this Schalke lineup has been rebuilt and has looked strong right off the bat. But important to look across the board at some of these rune choices.
Yeah, just taking note that it's two spellbooks on the side of Splyce. Pretty standard, an option that Braum can also move into, and of course Ornn usually takes the spellbook, but we'll see how this impacts some of the teleport plays. So a play that Splyce really like to run from their playbook is that if the bot lane is ever going sideways, they'll be one of the first teams to pull the trigger and TP or make the play topside to force a tower and take Rift Herald control. When you have spellbook on Norskeren and then Kobbe with the Varus also with TP, watch for that option around the 11 to 15 minute mark from Splyce.
And of course, no spellbook in the hands of IgNar and no TP in the hands of Upset, so not an option to follow on the side of Schalke. We're going to see how they combat that option if it comes to it. Memento will get the leashless start. Olaf, of course, incredible individual clear speed, where Sejuani will get a small leash here from the bottom lane, willing to give up a little bit on the level 1 and allow Schalke to push forward.
It's always going to be a question of where these junglers are going to attack first. I like the fact that Memento started top side of the map, does give him the option to path bottom, clear out his jungle, and then get an early gank there. And I just love Memento with IgNar. Anytime these guys pair up, I think there's just such a devastating combo. Whether they're roaming and securing vision or Memento is ganking his lane, that's what I want to see for Schalke, and that's what Schalke fans should want to see. Those two in the early game working together.
And we heard from IgNar kind of talking about why he likes this LEC environment, where he's allowed to speak his mind, where he's allowed to be, I think, a little bit more proactive, more vocal about what he wants to do. And we see that show through on stage in a lot of these aggressive plays. Level 2's coming from the bot lane. This is where we kind of expect to start to see Varus pushing back a little bit into this Ezreal. But Upset doing a good job of mitigating that so far.
Yeah, and Norskeren versus IgNar, both huge playmaking supports on massive playmaking champions. Of course, I feel like the edge is given to Norskeren, that he has the Braum into both Gragas and Ezreal. Does have a little bit of outplay potential, or really dissuades Ezreal picks because of how his Unbreakable can interact a lot with that skill shots, either the ultimate as well as the Mystic shot. So a lot of responsibility on Norskeren because he can really take the wind out of Schalke's sails with this composition. Absolutely
can, but now as we check in on the map, Frosco, we can see top side of the map, Xerxe ready and pretty well set up to gank top lane. Luckily, there's a bit of vision to stop it, but Memento has snuck his way into the bottom side here. Clears the top side.
Remember what I said about Olaf. It's really easy for him to gank bottom because of the line that you can take in, and you just walk out with the axe. Chunk him once with the belly bot from Gragas, huge damage.
Body slam flash, but they do not have the level advantage here. How many more creeps is the question before they get that level 3? They're going to step forward, Upset, maybe revealing their hand. Here comes the Predator. Kobbe now in trouble. The flash forward, the body slam, an instant flash out. Excellent pullback here. Norskeren blocks any follow-up, and they deny the gank immediately. Do sacrifice Kobbe's flash, though.
And it feels like both teams will feel pretty good about that initial gank. Kobbe's like, yes, I blew my flash, but they used 2 summoners as opposed to my 1, where Schalke are like, yes, he blew his flash, let's do it again.
Now we have to wait to see that repeat. Creative pathing coming in. Xerxe will get spotted out. Odo immediately knows it's time to go. He says, hey, long time no see. We used to play together.
Good use of the zombie ward.
And we've talked to so many top laners about this before, but being safe on red side top lane feels nearly impossible. And Odoamne not respecting the repeat gank. He's already blown his flash. It looks like he might just go down here in an instant 3 stacks 4. That's the stun up. The aftershock damage comes in. Odoamne goes down. First blood. He was too keen to give his old teammate a hug. That's what that looked like to me.
Yeah, that's a feels bad moment. Maybe a little bit of mind games, I guess. He knew that he was there, but he saw the back, figured, he's gone by now. He's not still in that bush. Overgreeds, immediately punished. And I love the fact that Chachi just flashed. He's like, you burned your flash? Time to die.
And Vizicsacsi is not a man who was ever scared, regardless of the matchup that he's picked into here. And we take one more look at it.
So, does dodge the initial
knock-up
damage, the knock-up, the displacement from Ornn, but the fact that Xerxe was still around, bad luck. That's what I'll call it.
Well,
it's a bad decision, but bad luck.
Decision. You can call it bad luck. That's fine. It was unlucky. There is a world where Xerxe didn't opt to stay top, and in that world, Odoamne is not 0-1-0. Luckily, he still has a bit of a CS lead, does not able to get the Catalyst or the tier, though, on the first back, which is pretty big.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and it's the fact that he had to use his TP on that back timer to make sure he didn't just lose everything in that lane as the wave was also pushing in, which makes that back much harder. So the tier, a little bit slower, delays the Ryze. We'll see if he can get over this hiccup, but it never feels good.
Memento now moving. We'll get spotted on Vision, trying to cover for Odo. You have a pause coming out. We'll keep you guys updated on what exactly is happening. But an interesting early game for sure. Already seeing Xerxe with a successful gank. Definitely not what Schalke wanted to deal with. Getting top lane snowballing for Vizicsacsi. Every time Vizicsacsi is in control, I feel like this guy is just such a monster in teamfights.
I mean, anytime that Ornn gets ahead, it just feels that much better because, again, Ornn doesn't really need anything to be an effective champion with all of the utility on his kit. It is nice to see Splyce paying attention to that top side. I feel like Odo's really been ignored. Everyone's talking about, Abbedagge this, Memento that, IgNar and upset, it's all amazing, which that's the nice thing about this Schalke roster. But Odo has been so good in so many of these team fights. And so when he is ahead, it makes Schalke that much more impressive.
And Ryze, of course, it's not the cannon, right? It's not this AP cannon. It's not this huge, big one-moment flank to turn the fight. It has that incredible scaling for the late game, but putting it behind early on just feels like it can be a death sentence for a lot of these early to mid-game skirmishes.
And we did talk about how I felt that the Ryze work really well in Abbedagge's hands because it fits with a lot of the tools that he's showcased on that Lissandra, but in Odo's hands, I still love it because Odo's still been such a master at flanking, and Ryze still gives your team so many opportunities to do that, and that's what I'm so impressed with Schalke. Like, watching them, I would love to listen to their comms because they look so clean and that they're all on the same page, and you wouldn't expect that with how new this roster is.
No, you would not. As an update on the pause, we are now back into game. It was just an issue with stage lighting. Someone with a little bit too much light in their eyes. We adjusted it for Schalke, and we are now back in. That's why Odo did stay.
He was blinded?
He was blinded.
You just didn't see him.
Just didn't see him. That's my theory. That is not the information that came through. But as we look at this game, one thing that you told me to look out for was that if the Schalke composition gets ahead, they just run through this game. What happens if the Splyce composition gets ahead, Froskurinn? What happens then?
They can run through, but they do it in very different ways, and it's forcing team fights as opposed to just being able to walk up to the towers. Because most of their champions are short range, save for the Varus, it's still difficult to siege unless you win a team fight on top of it. Good news is, it's something like an Infernal Drake, so if Splyce do feel confident once their team's ready to group up, they can be quite devastating around it.
Oh, Memento's here, but it might be too little too late. There's the Ornn horn, blows it out, and now Odoamne's caught in no man's land. He might need to back off here, but Memento here as well throws down the challenging smite and looks for a little bit more damage. Well-timed counter gank to stop Odoamne from dying there.
And good heads up from Memento to realize, okay, my top laner, he's in a bit of a hard situation, had to burn the teleport early on, didn't get the back that he wanted, so I just need to hover around the lane, make sure he's got some safe vision so he can push up, get that CS, not be denied because he's also missing his flash. So I do like the shift from Schalke to say, bot line's probably fine, let's make sure that Odo's okay.
Bot line's definitely fine, doing even and starting to pull ahead a little bit in CS. Sheen, obviously, much more ideal buy for this early wave pressure than a Vampiric Scepter. We'll see what first items look like as we come through, but feels like Xerxe and Vizicsacsi maybe overplayed their hand a little bit there. Giving up the flash from Xerxe could be huge as the level 6s are going to start coming in shortly. 7 minutes. Last game, I believe it was 7:15. Froskurinn that we saw the level 6s on patch 9.2. We'll see if these guys are able to match pace.
And I was curious how this would affect teams that are really reliant on their junglers. Again, if you're a team that's built around your jungler, like, let's say SK, who really rely on self-made, your jungler not getting as much experience can slow down the team. Teams that are really reliant on their mid laners, let's say someone like Caps, will probably be just fine because the laners are still just in the PowerPoint that they were.
And now, as we check, level 6s still haven't come in for Xerxe, but Memento has picked up his. Xerxe, it's been interesting. Splyce hasn't always relied on him. There's been a few games where he's been the defining moment on the team. But other times where it's been the macro plays and the double TP play option that Splyce have used to get ahead. Now that option not quite available as Norskeren does currently have the heal and ignite courtesy of the spellbook. But maybe we see them shift for that if they manage to get any other leads.
With that heal and the ignite, it just incentivizes Xerxe to pay attention to the bottom lane. He now has his ultimate backup and available for him. He could slip in behind this and then just try to force the play, knowing that they have the summoner advantage.
Eyes on Kobbe to fire his ultimate out. There's a ward in the bush, though. They're going to see Xerxe coming in. They know they've been spotted out. They could look for the rinse and repeat, though. Waiting around worked really well for Xerxe last time. That's all I'm going to say.
They also just want to make sure that if they are just shoving in this lane, that they find a good window to do it, where they don't just trade the Infernal Drake for free.
That is going to be important. Xerxe now trying to cover the mid lane, though. Froskurinn, this LeBlanc, kind of having a field day against Aatrox. I feel like it's pretty hard to land the Darkened Blade against such a mobile champion. A bit of CC, though, would definitely stop that in its tracks. Abbedagge remaining, though, at full health as Aatrox kind of just desperate to heal something back.
Probably still feeling really good that he's got his jungler underneath him. Maybe Xerxe pulls his own Jankos over that wall.
Fly in, deny a play. Now I've got a pause on the opposite side. Looks like it's coming from Kobbe. Maybe he also needs the stage lights adjusted.
Some mood lighting.
Mood lighting. Yeah, he's chilling. He's chilling in the bot lane. Item check-in, Froskurinn, as we're in a pause. So visualize with me, people. I don't have a graphic for you, but I can verbally describe it.
We can draw one.
I can hand draw on the screen. I don't think we should do that, though. But it feels like Vizicsacsi's in that ideal comfort point. Yes, he's losing in CS, but he's also so close to the Abyssal Mask that Odoamne doesn't seem like he has a lot of kill pressure at this point. This man still has not been able to back, still has not started a tier. About 9 minutes into the game, definitely not ideal for Ryze. It's going to take a long time for that to stack up.
Yeah, but again, it's this idea that it's Ornn versus Ryze. I think from Schalke's perspective, they were thinking, okay, it's just going to be back and forth with the wave, a little bit of tug of war, and then we're just going to scale up for free. I'm sure Splyce probably in that similar boat. It's Ryze versus Ornn. We'll just sit up there, get the ganks, because we have hard CC between Sejuani and myself. Maybe we kill him. Otherwise, see you at the team fights, guys.
And I like the Ignite from Vizicsacsi. Was it? Yeah, it was SOAS, the Ignite TP. I remember a few. That split. It's a good time. You lead to some Ornn solo kills.
What's interesting is, this is a pretty old school point, but Ornn taking the Ignite. Some teams, they feel that Ornn can take the Ignite and it makes his dive that much more punishing. Again, when you pair him with the jungler like Sejuani, the burst damage is still there in the early levels, and then you have the Ignite on top to compensate for the damage. Globally, in LCK and LPL, Ornn would often take the Ignite from the spellbook to dissuade dives, because it's that scary to dive in Ornn because of how much CC he has next to his tower, and then he also has the Ignite and his ability to trade 1-for-1. So it's kind of a double bang for your buck on that summoner, offensive and defensive options.
And if I know my man Vizicsacsi, he's looking at the dive option. He's looking at the how do we kill this guy in lane. Because very often that's what he's all about. But now, back into game. Ooh, see a little bit of aggression in the mid lane. Nice use the Darkened Blade. Oh, he's going to have to use the ultimate, but stunned up under tower. How many LeBlancs are we going to see die like this?
How many times are people going to go for the all-in when Sejuani's hanging around the mid lane?
Oof. All right, as an update on the pause, guys, Splyce paused the game. They encountered a known minor bug within the game, and after consulting with the team, League officials have determined to play on. Odoamne has determined it's time to back. Fun fact. He might actually be able to get some items and gain a little bit more relevancy in this lane. And Infernal Drake going to drop in favor of Splyce. Generally, things are going well for this team.
And the go button here is the fact that they know that LeBlanc doesn't have the TP, so they think that they have the numbers advantage.
He flashed and he's going to get it! He takes it away. No mercy here now coming in. Upset's off to the side. Kobbe's definitely trying to hold on for dear life, but Upset has more than enough damage to close it out in a second. All it took, they turn it around, they take the dragon, and right like that, the entire lead from Splyce is deleted.
That is checkmate for the chess team there. They thought that they had the advantage, and Schalke just kicked the board over. Again, it was calculated like, okay, we forced LeBlanc back. He doesn't have the TP. It's probably fine to approach this dragon. We feel secure in our vision, but Olaf walks over, and even if Olaf didn't steal it, you had the Ezreal ult incoming.
The dash out. Moving forward, locking him down. IgNar, not sure if they want to stick on that one. The double chains. Abbedagge. Not gonna hit him anymore. Okay. All right, he has the flash. Knows Humanoid has the flash too. Doesn't want to commit anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't have vision of where Xerxe is. So again, a lot of the respect. And again, I don't blame Splyce for this decision here. They thought they could get it. Unfortunately, didn't smite correctly. That's just a feel bad moment. As then Upset just walks down Kobbe.
That is a big oopsie, I think, from the side of Splyce. Not respecting what is an incredibly powerful early game champion, Olaf. He just got to walk into that pit, take it away, and walk right back out.
And the issue is, and I know that I complimented Splyce and Schalke's vision beforehand, but Splyce simply didn't have deep enough vision to secure that against these types of champions, the likes of the Olaf with Predator, the likes of the Ezreal, their ability to quickly collapse onto you once you're in the pit. If they maybe had some of that vision line pushed into the offensive jungle, it might have been a little bit better.
Definitely could have been the case. For now, Memento will pick up that blue buff, or at least hopefully donate it over to his mid laner. We'll see how alpha Memento feels like he is. Does he need to give that one away?
It's been pinged. He's walking over. It was pinged a lot, though.
I feel like you steal a dragon, you earn a buff. Like, you gave LeBlanc the Infernal Drake, you should just take the blue buff. But fine, be a team player.
The repeatable poke damage, though, that LeBlanc can put out now that she has a blue buff is obviously going to be a huge help. These are some mind games happening here.
Well, for now. Now, and interestingly
he wins the day.
He wins the day. He got it. Taking it away. Still going to hit him, though. Odoamne still playing with a lot of respect here, trying to throw it back in the tier, and just not having the catalyst yet does make it a little bit awkward in some of those trades.
Oh.
And this went from like, ooh, Ryze might have kill pressure, and after that first play, it's like watching two tanks fight again. Just weird, bizarre tanks. In this case, a Rune Man.
It can get a little bit scarier, though, now that Memento's here, so waiting for that ward to clear out so he can slip in. Now they're waiting for Chachi to...
the snap ignite because he wants to back and TP in.
They were waiting for Chachi to look for the knock-up, and now that they decided he's not going to do it since the wave is pushing him, Memento's like, see ya.
I like the ignite. That just feels... It's an alpha move right there. Abbedagge. One piece of CC is all it's going to take. Chilling Smite does go down. Predator here to turn the play. So he's just going to make it out in time. Now backing off, though. You're just not going to get much else.
Xerxe's still sitting on ultimate, and really he's just looking for a place to use it. And if it's in a counter gank in the mid lane or in that bottom lane, feels like it should be bot.
And if you're in the audience, you can hear the players on stage shouting. They're clearly ready to make a play. They're communicating intensely, but you can tell when the game is so even, like this 600 gold lead, only really a dragon, no towers broken yet, that both teams are very aware that a single mistake could open this game wide up.
And it feels like a bit of a tug of war. I do want to point out the fact that Kobbe just used his TP. So we talked about that Splyce play that they like to have in their playbook where, okay, let's break this game open. The dragon is down, we can play around the top side. Not going to be an option for them. And I feel like it's a direct response that it's a double Infernal possibly, so they don't want to give up control over the bot lane with that Drake spawning in 1 minute.
And if Ezreal's going to go for the double tier build, double Infernal is terrifying, so you definitely have to respect that choice. Abbedagge, though, in the LeBlanc just continues to be obnoxious, completely unafraid, even with Xerxe there with ultimate available. So well played so far. Massive CS discrepancy, Froskurinn. 99 to 136 now.
And it's not just the CS discrepancy, it's the fact that Abbedagge is absorbing so much pressure and attention from Xerxe. It feels like Sejuani's just been sitting around that lane, waiting for this LeBlanc to overstep, and that's, you know, more time taken away from Xerxe to impact these other lanes, whether that be top or bot.
And I think when we look at it, this game is very slow, very close, and both teams appear to be playing very patient. If we compare that to the SK game, it was much more explosive early on with a sudden turn from G2, and this feels very different. Feels like two very controlled teams. I think both teams aware of what this game means. Because once again, these are two teams trying to fight to make it to the top of the standings, and now IgNar trying to just knock him out. It looks like he tried to start the R, but the animation did not finish on the World Ender, and he just got deleted.
Just absolutely dunked, and unfortunately, it's a communication issue because losing track of IgNar, 9 times out of 10, when the support backs, he's going to walk towards the mid lane because he wants to place wards there anyway. A, Splyce don't have any vision, so there was no safety, and then B, wasn't aware that IgNar was back in his base and would probably be around the mid lane.
Oh, Abbedagge, he just keeps getting stunned. Xerxe's got this man's number, he's just not sure which one is the real one. Is going to back off, but Abbedagge, you need to respect that turret, my friend. Memento, is this the turn? Are they going to be able to take this one?
That's a yes.
Payback! 1 for 1. I mean, you gotta respect it. Norskaren's out here on that Braum. Xerxe looks like he's going to die, and he is. And in an instant, Froskurinn, we talked about snowballing.
You called for action.
I called for action. And I thought I called for the snow. Can we get the snowball graphic? Because I called for this saying that this was a very close, even game. But we saw a couple kills, and immediately we're right there. Look at the gold difference. We are right on point for the snowball meta. The question is this game going to follow the same pattern as every other game, where we see this incredible early game lead built by one team, and they just absolutely bring it home?
There have been very few teams that have been able to come back from a gold deficit And it's funny too, because again, looking at the 9.2, you got the changes to Baron, you got the changes to towers, the changes to the jungle. It feels like Riot's doing everything in their power to slow down the game a little bit. And the pro player's like, nah, pedal to the metal, let's go.
We don't care about you, balance team. And now, give me the slow-mo. Yes! Oh, he took smite! I'm blind! I'm blind, audience. I missed it. I know you at home are like, Drakos, it's not that impressive. He had the smite, but ooh! Oh, he told me he wouldn't dab anymore, but he's still out here disrespecting. Norskeren, man, what a hero to the Splyce fans right there. And that's embarrassing. Getting out-smoked by a support.
Didn't get to use the TP play, but finds the Infernal Drake. Huge win.
Huge win for the team. And as mentioned, still very good for their team. A lot of people who can't put that to good use, the Aatrox and the Varus most notably, and denying it from Schalke.
I want a triple smite Baron. Can't get it now, but I wanted it.
It might happen. It might happen. Varus, once he gets that Rage Blade, does shred through a Baron pretty quick. Triple smite makes it that much easier. Abbedagge, though, he knows he's winning this lane. The tower is down once again. Schalke's still very much in control. The Infernal, sadly, functioning more like a consolation prize than anything else at this stage of the game. And now we get to see how they exert dominance over the jungle. You talked about vision being so important for this team, both of these teams, and Schalke with the lane pressure here just feels like they get to set up so much more.
And the question is what if they attack next? And it should be the Rift Herald. You can see that the vision's already set up from Splyce around it, but at some point, Schalke are going to start moving up into that area, clearing it out, and playing for kind of that next tower, which starts with Rift Herald.
Oh, and Rift Herald, you can see Olaf moving to the top side as predicted. For now, though, Splyce very aware of that, doing what they can to control the vision. Sadly, Control Ward is going to take a little bit away, as well as the Scuttle Crab fading. Meaning that they are all but blind if Memento wants to go for the solo.
And I want to point out, everyone knows that Upset is a great Ezreal player, but why Ezreal is also so important for Schalke is because of how much IgNar roams around with Memento, as hold that thought.
Ornn trying to turn this fight. He suddenly realizes there are 3 people in his lane, wants to get the kill back on Vizicsacsi. He's going to flash back into the tower, but just immediately deleted. Does not even get a chance to find the knockup.
I was going to say it allows Upset to just sit in a lane by himself, but IgNar actually returned back to it. I thought before we were going into the replay that IgNar was going to roam up with Memento, and it was going to be a party in the top side.
It was definitely a party in the top side. Not the party that Vizicsacsi wanted. And you feel like he had hopes to turn that moment around. Froskurinn, you told me in the draft, you said if the Schalke team gets ahead, they're just going to kill anyone who stands under a tower. So far, so good. And now I'm wondering what Splyce do to fire back. They're going to get a tower, but it's the 1-for-1 trade on the side of Schalke.
The Splyce way would be to split up the map and start trading towers. It's not necessarily what their comp wants to do, but it's what Splyce love to do.
Abbedagge, definitely feeling comfortable splitting people up. Leaping towards any champion, regardless of how much CC they have, fearlessly. Humanoid maybe hoping to get a solid trade in his favor. At least one little crit there.
It feels like with all this attention to the side lanes, though, that we've missed the window for the Rift Herald, and I feel like that's actually better for Splyce, because they were afraid of Schalke getting that and then getting kind of too bang for your buck on it, because it's a siege composition or a comp that could have such strong siege potential with a Rift Herald. It's still not great, though, that it's around the Baron, but a little bit better.
Small wins, small victories. And interesting, too, as we check in on the build, you see 2 people with sprees going through the 500 gold for LeBlanc, the 450 gold for Olaf, and I like the Black Cleaver build coming from Memento. He knows he wants to threaten the backline, not seeing that redemption, not seeing the more supportive Olaf build, relying on those base damages. He's very ready to go deep on this character.
And he's also against a Varus, so it makes sense that he wants to have those aggressive itemization choices, because Memento's job could just be, I rock into the backline and just delete this Varus.
Definitely a terrifying prospect. You are the Varus. You have the Braum to protect all his range projectiles. You are not going to stop a melee range Olaf. Luckily, Kobbe does have the 2-item spike, though. Big breakpoint for this champion. Should feel pretty comfortable. Sadly, he's now playing against the ticking time bomb that is double-tier Ezreal, which is slowly going to start to stack up.
Kobbe has a really tough go at it with this composition. If this does come to a 5v5, just think about the backline threat that they have. The Ezreal with the through damage if Braum doesn't block the ultimate. The fact that Olaf can fly back there, the LeBlanc. Kobbe's got to be on perfect form if he wants to survive and actually maximize his damage output.
We talked about it. Oh, hold down that thought. Odoamne is going to back out. Upset now starting to get more aggressive as Vizicsacsi is going to run for the hills. Throwing Qs left and right. The side of Splyce is going to retreat. But we talked about Mr. Splyce, Mr. Schalke. Upset versus Kobbe. Who's going to come out on top? Upset definitely the player looking like he's playing better at this stage of the game. But we'll see what Kobbe can do as we get into the late game. Always has been that rock for this Splyce lineup. So if anyone's going to play perfectly, it has to be Kobbe.
Someone does need to answer to Abbedagge up here. I mean, I know that you like to talk about this, Drakos, the fact that mages can actually siege towers really effectively.
It's so obnoxious. Why even take an AD carry, some might ask. And by some, I mean me. I ask that when a LeBlanc can kill a tower in 5 hits. But the Ocean Drake will go to Splyce in the meantime, so a Drake for tower, maybe not the trade that they wanted, but the Ocean...
Definitely not the trade that they want. That's a huge trade up for Schalke.
If they had gotten it 12 minutes ago, it would have been good. But sadly, Ocean this late in the game, just not super relevant. And Froskurinn, 21 minutes in, it feels like I'm just once again waiting for that Baron, that all-important Baron. Schalke have the lead. They've got control over the individual lanes. Look at that vision on the top side. They can see everything.
It's now about if they execute on the vision. Since there's no dragon to play around, there is a timer where Schalke can start moving in and playing around the Baron if they want to, but they don't need to with the composition. I think that the onus is much more on Splyce to play around the Baron because their comp wants to be in these tight corridors where they can start laying down the Ornn, the Sejuani ultimate, the Varus ultimate, and things like that. They want to group up, whereas Schalke want to play kind of that hit-and-run style of League of Legends.
Well, the Predators now come out from Olaf, so maybe they're feeling a bit more comfortable. Humanoid, though.
Hit.
Rumble Dash comes out, has to use both just to get out of the tether range, knowing that that could have been a death sentence for him. Seems like both teams just kind of poking, kind of prodding. Almost fencing, like looking for that weakness in the enemy's defense to try to find an opening, to try to find some kind of engage. Maybe the team fight is where Splyce can turn it back. For now, though, much more about fighting for this vision, fighting for these wards.
IgNar is very brazen over that ward.
I feel like you give IgNar a dash champ and he's just fearless.
Oh!
Humanoid is going to get that one. Good patience coming through. I feel like if I was the LeBlanc, I would have leapt in to go for the auto. Humanoid takes his time, does manage to take that one away. Upset not going to get the cheeky steal, and missing that ultimate does give a small window, maybe where Schalke's team fighting strength is reduced.
So this is the waffling where Splyce need to make a play, and there it is.
Locked up, not a whole lot of ways to get out of this one. Wants to dash. Is still LeBlanc, so does just get to double dash out.
But the mindset is correct, not necessarily on targeting the LeBlanc with such high mobility, but that we can't just sit here and let LeBlanc win the side lane and let Upset just poke us out in the mid lane or hoover up all of this farm. We need to use some of these hard engage abilities. And that is something that Duke and Kobbe talked about on the analyst desk. You know, there was hesitation or indecisiveness on pulling the trigger, and it's actually costing Splyce really big here in the mid game because they're not maximizing all of the farm in their lanes, and they're falling further and further behind Schalke and kind of passively losing the game.
In a difficult spot to be sure. Now Upset has completed the Muramana, so the second tier has begun to charge, and Odoamne just gets more and more comfortable in this lane, has a blue buff for himself, as well as the completed Archangels, and Vizicsacsi, he's going to be upgrading some other people's items, but outside of that, he is not going to be able to handle this 1v1 for too much longer.
And I do want to credit a lot of Schalke's ability to deny vision. So we just saw kind of the big war where IgNar was clearing out rushes, but it's the fact that Splyce have been unable to get any sort of deep vision behind Schalke. On a composition where it's so important that they get the hard engage, you need to make sure that you can get those deep wards to try to find the teleport flanks.
Ezreal ulti going to move into the top side of the map. Hoping to stop Humanoid's back as Abbedagge is on the hunt. I like that coordinated effort from Schalke to try to find a cheeky pick to maybe get them in a position to start Baron.
Oh no.
Double TP mid lane.
Yeah, but IgNar's behind them.
I know, ready. The Gragas, feeling frisky. They do not have vision over that wall.
IgNar wants it.
Wants to go for the play. Here comes Memento. They're starting to retreat. They smell something coming. They still don't know where IgNar is.
Yeah, the saving grace was that Memento and Abbedagge weren't quite in position
Kobbe, that's
for
not the push you want. Oh, has to give up the flash. Does manage to make it out with his life, but a flashless Varus up against an Olaf is a terrifying prospect.
So we've been doing this dance, we've been posturing a little bit, but the dance is going to come to the end. The Infernal Drake is going to spawn, and we're going to have two huge monster objectives as well as the mid lane structure objective. Something is going to break here.
Splyce is ready for the fight. They are going to take the mid lane. They see the side laners present, trying to get those waves pushed, so they're going to take that opportunity to push out and take the tier 1 mid lane tower. Now we see Humanoid moving out, maybe going to clear up a little bit of vision. Chachi tries to forge a new item. And does.
Right in front of his opponent.
Upgrades the Blade of the Rune King for our boy Kobbe. Doesn't have a flash, but has an upgraded Blade of the Rune King. I would take the flash, but you know, beggars can't be choosers.
But just as an example of kind of all of the ways that Splyce have been outmaneuvered on the map, it's the CS differences between their solo lanes. Ryze and LeBlanc now pretty sizable. And again, it's this idea that Splyce have been trying to attack Schalke. They've been looking for engagements, but it's been a lot of wasted time. And in that wasted time, what are they trading for it? And it is that passive gold of just all those creeps. Odo's just been sitting out in a side lane, completely by himself, just farming it back up.
And he died in the early game. We have to remember, it felt like Vizicsacsi was going to be in a good spot, but Splyce weren't able to capitalize, weren't able to turn it into anything greater in the early game, and now it just feels like death by 1,000 cuts for Splyce, slowly but surely losing out on the gold, losing out on the scaling for some of these champions.
Right, here comes our arena. 8 seconds. Splyce got here first, so have initial vision control. But still, none of those deep wards that they need.
Humanoid Ooh, they're going to spot the 4 members in the bush looking for the trap. Abbedagge still playing with a lot of confidence here. Unbreakable has now been burned. Means IgNar can't try to find an engage under the backside. Upset does a lot of damage to that tank. Now he's looking for the engage, so they're immediately going to fire out, but Humanoid is already forced to use the ult. The Darkened Blade coming through, but already starting the resurrection. Vizicsacsi looking for Upset on the backside. He's still going to throw in a lot of damage. Can't find the ups. Ooh, can't find the knock-up in the end. Odoamne now coming in to clean up house. They're taking down the Olaf, but they can't get anything else because Abbedagge is out for blood. The flash forward from IgNar. Humanoid desperate to get something back, but it is not going to work out in the end. Kobbe and Xerxe caught in the base of Schalke. No hope to survive. The Ezreal gets the double. They might just give him the triple. All too easy as Schalke destroy the fight.
And it's just a single team fight, and now Schalke can take whatever they want. If they want the Infernal, if they want the Baron, if they want to follow the creeps, it'll probably be the Baron. Maybe even make it 2. As you can see, they all separate. But that's the thing. Schalke are so good at team fighting. Splyce, they tried to draft for the team fight. They say, okay, we've got the tools, we've got the arsenal. This team wants to fight us. Let's make sure we're just as strong as them. And they just weren't.
Was not the case. Humanoid just the ultimate forced out immediately, dies immediately, gets the resurrect. That allows him to get something back, but it's just too good. And you can see the desperation to pick off Upset on the backside does not pay off for Vizicsacsi, and Schalke confident in these plays.
And they threw everything initially at Upset. I believe Norskeren flashes back and tries to get him, and I thought, okay, the Ornn actually finds Upset after this flash, and he also walks blindly into the Aatrox because he's not aware that he's in the brush, but Upset still survives and is continuing to output DPS alongside Abbedagge the entire time. Excellent turn from Odo to help him out.
It just misses the second stack of the Darkened Blade there from the Aatrox that could have killed Upset. Would not have turned this fight though, sadly, because Abbedagge was still so strong, and the tankier members, even Odoamne at this point, a massive damage threat. It feels like once Splyce lose Kobbe, once they lose Humanoid, they just don't have anything left in the tank.
And a big part of that was the fact that when Splyce finally did get the fight and were forced to look for it over the Infernal, they had already fallen too far behind in the individual items. And it goes back to, for the last, it feels like 10 minutes, Splyce have been fishing for this fight, couldn't find it, lost all of the extra gold in the side lanes, and then ran into an opponent that already had a massive gold lead.
And the gold lead just continues to grow. Froskurinn, 47.6k to 55.8, double Infernal for the side of Schalke. The Drake RNG working out very much in their favor, and you can see 2,000 gold lead in the mid lane alone, 2,400 rather.
And then remember how devastating Schalke's composition can be with Siege. Xerxe, I do like the fact that he's trying to clear out these flanking wards and then just dissuade them from approaching the tower, but Baron being applied in all 3 lanes and just the safety there. You know, how are you going to gank the Ryze or the Ezreal or the LeBlanc?
Vizicsacsi desperate to get something here. Odoamne trying to sidestep the flash, still gets hit by the ultimate. Kobbe on the way. The ulti not going to connect to the movement suits here and take him out. Odoamne solo killing Vizicsacsi, and it's Upset over the wall. There's so much damage coming in. Norskeren is running for his life. Is he going to be able to make it down? Upset chasing down Humanoid, locked up. Ulti going to keep him alive for now. Are they going to go even deeper? IgNar ready to go in a moment's notice for the body slam. Here comes the Ryze ultimate. No one's going to follow up. Instead, setting their sights on the tower. Schalke breaking into the base of Splyce.
Yeah, and everything is falling on them. It's not just in the top lane, it's also in that mid lane. This is going to be a huge swing for Schalke.
Breaking 1 inhibitor. It looks like they're set to break 2. The armor and MR change is not going to matter at this point for those inhibitors. Just dropping them instantly from this team composition, and with 1 inhibitor remaining, it feels like it is last dance for Splyce in the fights to come.
Salt in the wound there from IgNar.
Dash over the wall, baiting him in. Find a bit more time. And Schalke aren't even backing off. They're just going to continue the pressure here. 2 seconds till Vizicsacsi comes up. He has the cleanse. No ulti available quite yet. Will be up soon. But Abbedagge just continues to threaten.
And this is exactly where this composition wants to play, so they could take it safe, back up, spend the global gold that they've just gotten out of taking all of these objectives, all of these resources, and then come back that much stronger. Or, why not? We've got Baron. Even if we wipe here, it's not going to mean anything. There's no objective for Splyce to take, so let's push our luck, use our comp sieging ability and poke ability, and see what else we can break.
This continues to look good for the Schalke lineup. So not able to break the W stack there as Abbedagge just leaps in, continues to deal so much damage here. And Abbedagge continuing to impress. We wanted to see if he could play more than just the Lissandra. Now showing his hand on this assassin style pick, and it's a good look. 4, 1, and 3. I was wondering, how does he have so much health? You can see his health bar right now. Why is that health bar so big? That's because he's level 17 to the level 15 of Aatrox. Incredible individual lead. And Schalke smiles on their faces, I think, unsurprisingly, because they know that they are moments away from winning this game.
And that puts pressure on Splyce. You know, they've got one last final stand probably left in them. Maybe they get the miracle team fight, wipe them, but even from there, you're still fighting from a massive back foot. They'd have to win probably the next 5 team fights in a row before this game even evens out.
And checking in on some of these cooldowns here, Upset the cleanse up and available. The flash is not there, so he's going to be a hard target to find. But if Abbedagge oversteps, he has been playing incredibly aggressive, has no way to cleanse out here. So maybe that is an opportunity if Aatrox can land the key engage, or you see it from Xerxe. But it really does feel like Splyce are grasping at straws. Very small opportunities left for this team.
Yeah, and then again, I just kind of expect Schalke to continue to force feed this into Splyce because their poke and burst damage from LeBlanc and the Ezreal is just too strong.
All right, as a pause reason, we have reports of lag from Abbedagge. We are investigating. In the meantime, we can take a look back at, one of the key fights on the top side of the map. But it really just feels like a testament to how strong Schalke are in this game right now as we look back at this one.
I was going to say I had to quickly recall which one it was going to be. Odo's just very tanky right now. Obviously, Chachi thinks that he can kill him, but tries to walk him out. He can't. The gold lead's really speaking for itself, and then it allows enough time for the rest of Schalke to rotate over into the fight and then just start cleaning up on the back half. And to pick a fight there, if Splyce lost it, they were going to lose big.
And it does feel like a bit of a communication breakdown there. Vizicsacsi going in, the team not quite in position. You see Humanoid with the desperation trying to land that Darkened Blade onto what is a full health Ryze. So does seem like it broke down there in the end. And now it's going to cost Splyce dearly as their base has been broken open, as we're looking at what it could just be 3 inhibitors taken down. We are going to be playing on. And the game is now resuming as we check back in. It's a slow siege. It's a game of protect the super minion.
Should be noted that Ryze is escorting in the waves up into the top side of the base. So again, trying to split up Splyce so they can't use their all-in engage together.
One more out on the tower from Upset. Doesn't want to push forward. They're just taking their time. Another tower dropping. Splyce are going to need to pull the trigger somewhere. They need to pick a target. They need to delete it as quickly as possible. Humanoid has said top. The rest of the team has said bottom, and it's a split call. The engage is going to find Upset, but he immediately cleanses out, and just in time. And the Essence Shift is going to go in. Abbedagge now trying to follow up, trying to re-engage. It's a slow, steady clear. They throw the Ezreal right into the Unbreakable, but the inhibitor is the goal in their sights. Slowly trying to chip it down, but now he's locked up. Upset is going to get taken down, and this is the chance to turn the fight. Splyce ready now to fire back. Humanoid has to be careful, though. Odoamne still a massive damage threat. The rest of Schalke unafraid. They are not worried about the Ezreal. They have the Ryze, they have the LeBlanc, and they're going to continue to pressure forward.
And it feels like they want to get this and get out.
Odoamne knocked up. Has he overstayed his welcome? Abbedagge running low on mana. Odoamne now could be in trouble. Humanoid right to the back line now, trying to turn it. He's burning down. He's going to come out of the zone. He's a die immediately. Shut down is massive. Splyce turning it back. 3 inhibitors down, but they are going to be able to find the fight. IgNar taken out as well. Abbedagge running for his life, and Splyce managed to take it.
I mean, it's the silver lining for Splyce. It means that they live to fight another day, but the nature of this play was always going to be high reward, low risk. And the reason why is that even if Splyce aced Schalke there, there's nothing for them to do. All of the minion waves are again going to crash into their base. They're now dealing with all of these super creeps. The Baron is spawning in 120, and Schalke are just going to say, you're still locked in your base. Yeah, you got a couple of kills, you got a couple of bounties, but we're just going to play around the Baron anyway. And that's kind of the last Hail Mary for Splyce. They need to make sure that they can hold off that buff in time for their inhibs to respawn.
We look back at this, and they find Upset once, and again, and he finally is going to drop.
Big thing there was the fact that Kobbe didn't use his ultimate in the initial engagement with the Ornn ult and the Sejuani ult. Feels like Schalke just didn't pay attention to the cooldown, lost track of the Varus ultimate, and then caught him off guard once the cleanse was down.
And Odoamne trying to get cheeky with the Realm Warp. Does not work out for him in the end, and Splyce are able to clean up a few kills, grab a couple shutdowns in progress. But as we check back in on live in the picture-in-picture, you can see Baron, the focus here. Teams already starting to set up Schalke, knowing that if they get this one, they can just pretty much walk it down the respective lanes. And Abbedagge, level 18, just a predator waiting in the jungle to leap out at anybody who stands in his way.
So at this point, Schalke just need to hunker down in this area, clean out all of the vision, and then either just set a trap or turn and burn the Baron with double Infernal and all of the item advantages that they have.
And this is a very different look. You look at the damage dealt over the course of the game. Frosk won, obviously very heavily in the favor of Schalke. No surprises, they are winning quite handily. But you look at how well it's split between the 3 damage threats on this team, and that's a different look. We're not relying on Upset for that late game carry. You don't have the utility mid laner anymore. Just so many damage threats across each one of their respective carries.
And it's just much easier for Schalke's composition to output this type of damage because of the nature of their champions. Again, you can just throw out Mystic Shots, start racking up that number, throw out the LeBlanc distortions, rack up that number. And Ryze being in a side lane this entire game by himself.
Fighting an Ornn.
Odo continues to do.
You're just boosting your stats every time you throw out a combo. 5K and dropping. Really no way for Splyce to interact with this Baron. And with every inhibitor dead, it does feel like the funeral march for Splyce. Schalke will barrel down the respective lanes once they're able to get their resets. double super minions on the bottom side alongside Odo.
I think there's actually a trap possibly being set up. Nope, we're going to pull the plug on that one. It looked like they were waiting for Odo to walk forward and then hide Varus and Braum in that tiny little pixel brush and try to gank him.
Vizicsacsi, you can tell he's fishing for something. They're hoping to find a pick here, but it's a dangerous game. Overcommitting to a play right now does mean that your base will be pretty much instantly obliterated as we see a very terrifying Ezreal and LeBlanc. The death cap coming out for the LeBlanc as well as the Archangel staff coming in for the Ezreal. Inhibitors now respawning on the top of the middle. That will buy them at least one wave where they don't have the double super minions, but you can see how quickly they're dying as Abbedagge and Upset do their due diligence to break these down. Splyce holding on to one at least to deny the double spawn of super minions.
Someone's got to go, Splyce.
They're calling the shot on Odoamne. They are going to find the knockup. Where's the follow-up going to be? IgNar with a quick disengage. It's a slow, controlled finish for Schalke as they walk into the base. Splyce, once again, they've already burned a lot of engaged tools. IgNar's burned the cast in exchange. Humanoid trying to find something, but Abbedagge now pushing forward and leaping right back out. The Sejuani ult missed, and that might be all she wrote. Now moving in for Schalke as they push for a little bit more. Humanoid trying to land something, trying to get something. Eyes on Kobbe in that ultimate. Where can he find it? The flash is up for Upset. They're going to be nigh impossible to lock down this Ezreal and LeBlanc. Schalke slowly picking away. Odoamne is going to get caught out, but there, the follow-up is now denied. They're trying to return. Upset free firing to the backline. Abbedagge leaping into everybody, and this could be the fight that Schalke need. But Splyce already getting a lot of damage down from Kobbe, but an instant turn as Odoamne just shreds through the back line. Memento still alive. A clean final fight for Schalke in the end, and they are going to take down Splyce and move up to 4-1 in the standings.
And it frankly looked like a cat and mouse game. Schalke completely in control, just tore Splyce apart. And Splyce, that indecision continues to rock them. It felt like they needed to pull the trigger a bit earlier on their big 5v5 wombo combo abilities on that composition, but we're just never able to lock down Schalke.
And just a well-played game across the board. Schalke moving up once again, proving that they are a contender for top of the table. And such a young lineup to be doing so quickly in the split.
And I love the fact that Abbedagge did it on the LeBlanc, a huge pressure point for this game, and proving that, you know, I don't play Lissandra simply because that's all I can play. I play Lissandra because she's in the meta. I'm just doing my due diligence for the team.
And Abbedagge pulling ahead in the race of rookie mid laners. We wanted to see Abbedagge versus Humanoid, how that was going to play out. Abbedagge wins the day quite handily. And now you're wondering, is he just going to pull ahead of the pack? Is this man a clear standout for Rookie of the Split already? Self-made, maybe the only other person going toe-to-toe with him in terms of contesting.
As Schalke continue to rise and Abbedagge continues to prove himself, he's definitely my front runner right now and who I'm most interested at. It felt like it was a race, you know, is it Humanoid, is it Nemesis, or is it Abbedagge? Who is the true next generation of EU mid lane talent? And it feels like Schalke made the right call.
Absolutely did. And the strategy coming across so well for them. Hello, Memento. Getting some high fives as well. Hey, everybody. Not from IgNar, though. Oh, denied. Okay. You guys can't see that on camera, but it was a little harsh. All right. And honestly, this team looks so good. And I have to say it again. Remember, this team is rebuilt around Upset, that so many of these pieces have never come together on a lineup before. IgNar just comes back from Korea, and he's already syncing so well with Upset, and the fact that they have developed so incredibly quickly is a huge testament to Schalke as an organization.
And it's the fact that they have that triad. You know, you look at someone like G2, and they're just so scary because of how powerful the individual pieces are, and it feels like you get this great mixture of Schalke on a roster that no one was really looking at. You have incredible macro and communication, their vision game is on point, you have great team fighting, and you also have a high mechanical ceiling on so many of their players. And it just feels like this well-oiled machine that Schalke don't really have a lot of weaknesses. They're like a jack of all trades.
Definitely the case. You see D-Lim and Dylan Falco on stage with Abbedagge. Hopefully giving him a pat on the back after an incredible LeBlanc performance. Looks really good from this guy. We heard from him in the first few weeks. He seemed soft-spoken, more reserved, you know, feeling comfortable, feeling confident. And now he just, on stage, he looks like an absolute monster, though. He looks so incredibly crisp.
Yeah, moving over from Fnatic to Schalke, you know, in his shot caller interview, Dylan Falco was quite soft-spoken. You know, he said, I don't put a lot of that emphasis into the PR. So when you think about like the big coaches in the LEC, his name doesn't often come up. But really speaking for itself with how he's able to curate and craft the Schalke roster, he felt like he had a lot of responsibility in picking these pieces and putting it together. And he's done a wonderful job based on the results.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, outside of the coaching staff, we do want to hear who your player of the game is. At eSports on Twitter is the place. Your Kia player of the game. You can choose between IgNar, Abbedagge, and Upset.
Ooh, that's a tough call.
That is a tough call.
I feel like the game was actually won because of so much solo lane EXP that went to Odo and Abbedagge, but Upset played so well in those team fights when they threw everything in the kitchen sink to get into the back line.
Definitely the case. Well, to get more insight on Schalke's win, let's hear from Lore and their jungler.
Thank you very much, Drakos. 4-1 for Schalke in the standings here. Great showing from you guys. How was it to prepare to play against a team that usually aims for late game in a snowball meta?
I mean, I think we're really stable, like in early game. So I'm kind of happy with it. If they don't want to fight us and go to late game, we'll just roll over them like we did this game.
How did you prepare to beat Splyce today?
I'm not sure, actually. I didn't actually think that much. I think we just focused on ourselves, like what we actually want to do and what we do best. And I think our early game is like really solid. So we just prepared really well through that side, I think.
Okay.
And they didn't really do that much early game except the gank on top lane. So I felt it wasn't. And then they also fought on Dragon, which was really greedy. So we just punished them. And I just feel like our team is just more calculated and playing really well with each other.
And more carefully maybe, and great showing from your mid laner, especially.
Yeah, Abbedagge is faker.
Yeah, and he's faker.
Yeah, he's really good.
Well, I was going to say he looks to be one of the most promising mid laners so far, and one of the most promising rookies in the LEC. What do you think about him, except the fact that he's faker, obviously?
I mean, I think in the beginning, you know, as any rookie, he had a lot to learn. But I really like how his mentality. He's really easy to work with. He works really hard, and it's just really fun to work with him. So I definitely see him so much potential in him.
As experienced player, how are you guys helping him?
I mean, we're just mostly trying to help him where he should be on the map, like when he's playing mid lane, and just playing for vision and just teaching him the kind of things that you don't learn like from national leagues or like other. When you get to LCS, I think it's like a different level. So but he learned really fast. So I think he's just improved a lot. And
we'll see way more from him. Now, a bit more about you. You used to be a strong voice last year. Now I know we have IgNar in the team, who's also helping a lot. What is your role within the team right now?
I'm also just focused on the early game. I try to help with communication and just make sure everyone is on the same page. And then I just have a really great team, you know? Like, I have really great carries, so I just sit back in my chair and I just watch them carry.
Just relax.
I just do what I can and I just try to help on every single aspect of the game.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to see more from you guys. Now we're going to send it back to the analyst desk with Trevor. Take it away.